Have you ever experienced this? You walk into an exam room feeling prepared. You studied, you reviewed, you understood the material just last night. But then, as the test paper is placed on your desk, something shifts. Your heart starts pounding, your breathing gets shallow, and your mind begins to race. You look at the first question, and suddenly, everything you learned feels miles away. It's like your brain has just gone blank. In that moment, so many students ask the same question: why am I panicking? It feels strange, doesn't it? You did the work, you knew the concepts, so why does your mind suddenly stop cooperating? Most people assume the panic comes from how hard the exam is, but the real reason is often much deeper. Your brain isn't just reacting to the questions on the page, it's reacting to what the result might mean. For many of us, exams stop being simple evaluations of what we've learned. They become something much heavier: a judgment, a signal, a moment that seems to reveal something fundamental about who we are. And when your brain believes the result could define your capability, it starts to treat the situation as a threat. This reaction happens incredibly fast. Suddenly, the exam isn't just a test of knowledge. It's a test of your identity, and threats to our identity trigger a powerful, ancient response in our nervous system. Instead of staying calm and analytical, your brain switches into protection mode. For most of human history, threats were physical: a predator in the distance, a sudden danger. These situations required an immediate reaction, not deep thought. So our nervous system evolved a simple rule: when something feels threatening, stop analyzing and start protecting. Your heart rate increases, your breathing changes, and your attention narrows. Your body gets ready to respond, to fight or to flee. This system helped humans survive for thousands of years. But during an exam, that same reaction can work against you. Because when your brain enters protection mode, something crucial happens. Your thinking system becomes less active. Retrieving memories becomes harder. Logical reasoning slows down. This is why students sometimes experience that very confusing feeling. You studied, you understood, but when the exam starts, the information is suddenly impossible to access. It's not because the knowledge disappeared. It's because your brain shifted into survival mode, and survival mode isn't designed for solving complex problems. It's designed for responding to danger. Albert Einstein once said, "Anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried anything new." But exams often create the exact opposite experience. Instead of seeing mistakes as a normal part of learning, the brain starts to interpret them as evidence of failure. And when mistakes feel dangerous, the pressure skyrockets. Your mind starts monitoring every single answer. What if this is wrong? What if I fail this question? What if this result affects my future? Soon, the exam becomes emotionally heavy, not because the questions are impossible, but because the result feels so meaningful that your brain interprets it as a threat. And the more pressure the brain feels, the more it tries to protect itself, which can make thinking even harder. This creates a vicious cycle. The pressure increases. The brain shifts into protection mode. Thinking becomes more difficult, which then increases the pressure even more. And that is often the exact moment when panic sets in. But there's something really important to understand here. This panic doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It simply means your brain believes the situation is dangerous, and it's doing its job trying to protect you. The Roman philosopher Seneca once observed something interesting about fear. He wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Long before the exam even begins, your mind has already imagined countless possible outcomes: failure, disappointment, falling behind, letting other people down. In the moment, these possibilities feel incredibly real, but they are still just imagined scenarios. Yet your brain reacts to imagined threats almost as strongly as it does to real ones. So your nervous system prepares for a danger that doesn't actually exist in the room with you. The exam paper is just a set of questions, but your mind interprets it as something much, much larger. And it's this interpretation that creates the pressure that makes thinking harder, that makes your mind feel unstable, and that students ultimately experience as panic. At Daily Reset Lab, we explore the hidden psychological mechanisms behind modern pressure, identity, and learning. If this idea about exam pressure feels familiar, you might find another video on this channel interesting, because many students don't just panic before exams, they also tie their identity to their academic results, which is exactly what we explore in another reflection. You can watch it here: why your grades feel like your identity and why that's dangerous. But first, let's continue understanding how the mind reacts in moments like this. Another factor that intensifies exam panic is anticipation. Students often spend days, even weeks, imagining the moment of the test. They picture the questions, they picture the results, they imagine success, and they imagine failure. The mind tries to predict the experience before it happens, but this prediction rarely reduces anxiety. In fact, it often increases it because the mind just keeps replaying all the possible negative outcomes. What if I forget everything? What if the exam is harder than I expected? What if everyone else finishes before me? These thoughts create a constant state of tension long before the exam even begins. By the time you walk into that exam room, your nervous system is already on high alert. It's already prepared, already expecting danger. This makes the transition into full-blown panic much easier because your brain was already getting ready for it. But the interesting thing about your nervous system is this. While it reacts very quickly to perceived threats, it can also calm down just as quickly when your body signals that you are safe. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." This doesn't mean you can control the exam, or the questions, or the results. But you can influence how your nervous system reacts in the moment, and sometimes the most effective way to calm your mind isn't through thinking, but through your body. When your brain enters protection mode, your breathing often becomes fast and shallow. This pattern actually reinforces the feeling of danger, telling your brain that the threat is real, but slow, deliberate breathing sends a completely different signal. It tells your nervous system that the situation is stable, that your body is safe. And when your body begins to relax, your mind will often follow. So, before an exam begins, or even during if you feel panic rising, something very simple can help interrupt that cycle. Just take one slow breath in, pause for a moment, then breathe out slowly. Repeat this just a few times. This simple act doesn't remove the exam, and it doesn't remove the pressure entirely, but what it can do is shift your nervous system away from survival mode and back toward thinking mode. And when your brain returns to that state, memory retrieval becomes easier again. Your mind becomes clearer, your attention becomes steadier. Sometimes the difference between panic and clarity isn't about more preparation, it's simply about the state of your nervous system, because your brain cannot think clearly while it believes it's under threat. But once your body relaxes, your mind can get back to work, and often that knowledge that felt so distant suddenly becomes much easier to access. Not because you learned more in that moment, but because your brain returned to the state where thinking is possible. So the next time you notice that feeling of panic starting to appear before an exam, it might help to just pause and recognize what's happening. Your brain isn't failing you, it's protecting you. But exams are not life or death threats, they are simply questions. And once your nervous system understands that, your mind can return to what it was preparing to do all along: think, solve, and learn. At Daily Reset Lab, we explore the hidden psychological mechanisms behind modern pressure, identity, and learning. If this reflection helped you understand exam anxiety a little more clearly, consider following the channel for more insights like this. And if you want to understand another pattern many students experience, watch the next video, Why Students Forget Everything After Exams. Thanks for watching.